Ariel Helwani following the Brooklyn leg of the Mayweather-McGregor World Tour alongside Showtime Stephen Espinoza. Stephen, what did you think of tonight?
Well, the intensity keeps increasing. It's getting more tense and more tense. All around. You know, it, I think earlier I said, I wish there were 4 or 5 more dates. At this point, I think one more date is about all it will take before this thing blows up.
Are you worried that it's getting a little too hostile, a little uncomfortable?
It's getting right to the line. And I think with another fighter other than Floyd, there were probably a couple times tonight that could have turned into something ugly. But Floyd's been there before, and you've seen him either. Probably the most infamous incident was probably the Zab Judah fight, and there were, stools being thrown, and Roger Mayweather and I think Floyd Senior, brawling, and Floyd was cool, calm, and collected. So, at this point, I'm not worried about that, but I do think that Conor brought it right to the edge a couple of times.
So you don't feel like you crossed the line with any of the comments or any of the actions?
It was hard to hear a lot of the audio.
Do you think that kind of killed the crowd a little bit?
I think so. And it's it's tough. We had great audio in Toronto, and but you get the point. You get the energy. Anyway, there was clearly the emotions were coming through, if not the words.
Any changes for London now after tonight?
I think both sides will probably pull back a little bit.
Okay.
It's hard to sort of escalate it from this point.
Sure.
And I think both guys are pretty sick of each other. So I'd be surprised if there was extended interaction in London, but who knows?
Do you regret adding the London? Like, do you feel like 3 should have been enough?
No, I think it's an important market, and it's a nod to Conor as well. Obviously he's Irish, and that's not exactly London by any stretch, but it was an important market, and it'll be one of the top markets outside of the U.S. certainly.
Are you worried that if London falls flat for whatever reason, now the narrative will be like, oh, Toronto was an anomaly, and then, oh, there were some issues in Los Angeles and Brooklyn and stuff? Like, do you feel like all of a sudden this has changed in 24 hours from this really feel-good story, genuine thing, to we don't really quite know how this is really going to unfold?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there were sound problems tonight, but I think the feedback, everybody got what they were looking for, which is the performance, the spectacle of the entire thing. You saw the interaction. There was always a tweetable moment. There's Floyd with, if there's a meme or a GIF coming out of this one, it's Floyd in the money. Although the pants and the fur were pretty phenomenal as well. So I think it provided enough of the momentum to keep going forward.
You feeling okay with everything, your role, the booze and Conor coming up to you? It seemed like at one moment, correct me if I'm wrong, like you were about to stand up and sort of go toe-to-toe. Saw the fighter in you come out.
There was, the boos are fun. You've got to play into it, and, it is funny to me at this point. I don't have to say anything. I can just go up there. So, it's sort of becoming the villain by extension. Personally and professionally, look, I firmly believe that TV execs should never be the story, but I'm part of it, a minor part of it. So you embrace it to a certain extent, and you're right. I told you before the event, my patience was running thin.
Yeah.
Look, I'm the last guy who's going to get physical, but look, at a certain point, patience runs thin. I'll leave it at that.
Is it even thinner now?
It's definitely thinner now.
Wow.
And again, I'm surprised. I think he's. It's interesting to me. I'm not sure what to make of the fact that he's focusing so much energy, on someone other than Floyd.
Sure.
I'm not sure if he thinks that he's getting at Floyd through me. Again, Floyd's worked with a lot of TV execs, and he's a loyal guy, but he's not. It's not like he's attacking one of his kids.
Last quick thing. You guys, the Showtime team and Mayweather have, I feel like, gone out of your way to sort of make Dana White and the UFC feel comfortable. Floyd is apologizing, and you seem to be saying very nice things about the other side. Dana spoke to us before the event and said he thinks that Showtime cut the mic, and it's been too loosey-goosey, and I'm not a fan of this and that, and he's like, oh, look, I'm not fans of Showtime. They know that, and it was surprising to hear him say that at this juncture. What do you make of those comments?
Successful people are generally successful because they're very strong-willed and have strong opinions. And Dana has come in with very strong ideas about how he likes things done, how he likes press conferences run. From our perspective, the way he runs press conferences de-emphasizes the fighter, and it emphasizes Dana, and that's backwards. I understand that might be great for the UFC brand, but I think our goal, strategically, philosophically, is to try to place the fighters at the center of the promotion. So that it's a philosophical difference. He's not a fan of the structure. I think this template for press conferences. But again, he's coming over to sort of to this sport, and there are some areas that he's going to have to adapt. And if he's uncomfortable, unfortunately, so be it.
Thank you, Steve, and good luck in London.
All right, thank you.